Looking at your reflection in the mirror, do you sometimes notice something different? Something that wasn't there before your world fell apart and rebuilt itself? There are invisible markings that appear on women who've learned to survive completely alone. 7 distinct imprints that emerge when you've been forced to become your own everything. These aren't wounds that need healing. They're signatures of transformation. Proof that you didn't just survive abandonment, you evolved through it. Let me show you what I mean. The first signature lives in your heightened awareness, that laser-sharp perception that cuts through pretense before your rational mind catches up. You've developed what feels almost supernatural, the ability to read between the lines of human behavior. Your awareness became acute because safety depended on it. Carl Jung would call this tapping into the collective unconscious, where ancestral knowledge about danger and protection lives. This isn't magical thinking. It's an advanced warning system forged from understanding that people's words often mask their true intentions, while their energy tells the real story. Your nervous system learned to scan environments instantly. The way someone holds their shoulders, a smile that doesn't reach their eyes, conversations that feel performative rather than genuine. You developed this sensitivity not as a gift, but as essential equipment for survival. The wounded feminine within you awakened because innocence became too dangerous. Now you perceive what others overlook, sense what others dismiss, understand what others refuse to see. Your cellular memory of disappointment taught your intuition to whisper warnings before threats announce themselves loudly. You've learned to honor the knot in your stomach when someone's behavior contradicts their words. The sudden urge to leave certain gatherings, the way your body rejects what your mind hasn't yet processed. This embodied intelligence moves faster than conscious thought, more precisely than careful analysis. Have you noticed how your instincts speak with authority? How you can sense people's motivations before they reveal them? This hypervigilance that others might dismiss as overthinking is actually sophisticated intelligence. You learned to trust your nervous system's wisdom because it protected you when nothing else could. This gift carries weight, though. Sometimes you perceive too much, feel too intensely, know too clearly. Reality becomes transparent in ways that can overwhelm. But this sight, this knowing, this intuitive precision serves as your greatest asset. It maintains your safety. It preserves your authenticity. It protects your sovereignty. This enhanced perception creates a unique isolation. You recognize relationship dynamics that others miss. Detect emotional manipulation before it fully develops. Feel the hidden currents in situations that remain invisible to those around you. Sometimes, you wonder if your insights reflect reality or if vigilance has created false alarms. But experience consistently validates your inner guidance system. Time proves your compass accurate. The second signature reveals itself in your quiet self-possession. The way you occupy space without needing to announce your arrival. You carry what Jung called centered authority, the kind that emerges from years of standing in your own power when nobody else would. Stand with you. This isn't dominance or force. This is something far more substantial. The calm authority of someone who has encountered herself completely. You don't need to raise your voice because your presence communicates volumes. People recognize this immediately. There's something about you that resists manipulation, refuses diminishment, cannot be made smaller. This unsettles some people because it challenges social expectations about how women should move through the conway world. Your self-possession disrupts the narrative that you should seek approval, should minimize yourself, should prioritize others' comfort over your own well-being. This authority was forged in the fire of isolation. When you had nowhere to turn, you turned inward. When you had no one to depend on, you became dependable to yourself. Jung called this individuation the journey toward psychological completeness. You achieved it not through academic study or therapeutic insight, but through the raw necessity of survival. The internal reconstruction that happened during your solitude created something unexpected. Where others developed their sense of self through external approval and social reflection, you were compelled to excavate your identity from within. This solitary construction of selfhood produces a different quality of confidence, one that doesn't require constant reinforcement because it wasn't built on others' opinions from the beginning. How much of your strength was constructed in complete isolation? In moments when the world overlooked you, yet you refused to overlook yourself. This quiet authority you possess now directly results from those invisible battles, those private triumphs, those silent moments of choosing yourself when no one else would. The third signature emerges in your extraordinary ability to inhabit difficult silences. You learn to exist within emptiness without being destroyed by it. Where others escape from quiet moments, you've made peace with the void. Jung understood that what he termed the negative mother complex could push us into profound isolation. But in your case, this solitude became sacred rather than punishing. You've sat with your pain without needing to broadcast it. You've endured heartbreak without requiring witnesses. You faced your shadows in the privacy of your own consciousness and emerged not bitter but clearer. The silence that once threatened to consume you became your sanctuary, your mentor, your most reliable companion. This capacity to be alone with yourself without distraction or numbing is rare in a world that fears self-examination. You learn to find the holy in empty spaces, the divine in quiet moments, the profound in seemingly vacant hours. Your relationship with solitude transformed from survival mechanism to spiritual practice. Can you sit with yourself without needing entertainment, without requiring external validation, without needing noise to silence the sound of your own soul? This ability to remain present with your inner landscape, even when it's painful, represents one of your most profound capabilities. It means you know yourself in ways that others who constantly seek distraction never will. Moving to the fourth signature. Your capacity for love with clear boundaries reveals wisdom that can only emerge from having loved foolishly and learned from the experience. You love deeply, but you no longer love at the cost of your own essence. Jung spoke of the mother archetype that gives until empty, until nothing remains. You transcended this pattern not through selfishness, but through sacred self-preservation. There was a time when you mistook love for sacrifice, when you believed caring meant self-erasure. You gave everything you possessed and received fragments in return. You poured yourself out for people who never wondered if your well was running dry. But somewhere in that process of depletion, you discovered something revolutionary. Love that excludes self-love isn't genuine love at all. Now, your love arrives with boundaries that protect the sacred space you've cultivated within yourself. You say no not from cruelty, but from wisdom. You hold space for others without losing yourself in their narratives. You care without becoming responsible for outcomes beyond your control. This evolution from compulsive caregiver to conscious lover represents one of the most significant transformations a woman can make. Learning to love with limits required. Unlearning generations of conditioning that taught you that virtuous women disappear into others' needs. The process of reclaiming your right to exist within your own relationships felt both revolutionary and terrifying. Each boundary you established felt like a small betrayal of who you thought you should be, until you realized you were actually betraying who you thought others wanted you to be. Have you learned the distinction between loving someone and losing yourself in someone? Between caring for others and disappearing into their requirements? Your love now carries the dignity of someone who has remembered her own value. This isn't selfish love. It's sustainable love. It's love that endures because it doesn't demand your destruction as proof of its authenticity. The fifth signature reveals itself in your remarkable resilience without victimhood. You don't use your pain as ammunition against others or as justification for remaining stagnant. Instead, you've learned to use it as fertilizer for growth, as guidance for direction, as fuel for transformation. Your resilience emerged not from denying pain, but from the alchemical process of transforming suffering into wisdom. Jung would say you integrated your shadow without becoming cynical, that you faced your darkness without losing your light. Your story contains pain, but it also illuminates. Your wounds became gateways to deeper understanding, not just of yourself, but of the human experience itself. This resilience isn't the brittle kind that cracks under pressure. It's the flexible strength of someone who has bent without breaking so many times that adaptability became instinctive. You've learned to navigate storms not by becoming harder, but by becoming more fluid, more responsive, more attuned to the rhythms of change and recovery. Do you use your pain to evolve or to justify staying small? The difference between these approaches to suffering separates those who grow through challenges from those who become trapped by them. You chose growth even when growth was the more difficult path. Even when staying small would have been easier. Even when no one witnessed your courage. This sixth signature manifests as complete emotional and practical independence. This transcends paying your own bills or solving your own problems, though you do both with competence. This concerns something far more profound, that you stopped waiting for permission to exist fully in your own life. You don't ask others to validate your feelings because you've learned to trust your own emotional compass. You don't seek approval for your decisions because you've developed the inner authority to guide your own path. You don't wait to be chosen because you've chosen yourself so completely that external selection became secondary to internal acceptance. Jung would recognize in you what he called a well-developed ego structure, one that emerged from the collapse of old dependencies and false securities. You became your own center of gravity, not through arrogance, but through necessity. When the world showed you that you couldn't depend on others for emotional stability, you built that stability within yourself. This independence intimidates people sometimes because it challenges the narrative that women should be incomplete without others. Your wholeness threatens systems that profit from your perceived inadequacy, but you've moved beyond caring about such reactions because you've discovered something more valuable than approval: genuine self-respect. Your self-sufficiency extends beyond practical matters into emotional regulation. You've learned to comfort yourself in distress, to celebrate your victories even when no one notices, to provide yourself with the nurturing attention you once craved from others. This internal parenting creates stability that external relationships can enhance but never threaten. The metamorphosis from emotional dependency to sovereign self-reliance didn't happen overnight. It required countless moments of choosing your own counsel over others' opinions, your own truth over external validation, your own pace over society's expectations. Each choice to honor your inner knowing strengthened the foundation of unshakable self-trust that now supports everything you build. Are you still waiting to be seen and chosen? Or have you learned to see and choose yourself with the reverence you deserve? This shift from external validation to internal recognition changes everything about how you move through the world. The seventh and final signature is perhaps the most profound. Your strength that requires no audience. You've learned to do what needs doing without fanfare, to carry what needs carrying without complaint, to endure what needs enduring without making it a performance for others. Jung would recognize in you the archetype of the inner hero, the one who traverses internal wastelands in silence, who faces inner demons without witnesses, who conquers personal mountains without expecting medals. Your battles happen in the invisible realm where real transformation occurs, far from the eyes of those who only recognize struggle when it's loud enough to disturb their comfort. You don't announce your strength because you don't need others to believe in it for it to be real. You don't perform your resilience because it's not for entertainment, it's for survival and growth. You don't seek recognition for your endurance because the recognition that matters comes from within, from knowing you showed up for yourself when no one else would. This quiet strength confuses a world that expects suffering to be dramatic and victory to be celebrated publicly. But you've learned that the most profound victories are often silent, that the greatest strength is often invisible, that the deepest healing happens in the sacred privacy of your own soul. Can you recognize your own magnificence even when no one else notices? Can you honor your own journey even when it lacks external witnesses? This ability to validate your own experience, to recognize your own growth, to celebrate your own victories is perhaps the most liberating skill you've developed. As we reach the core of understanding these 7 signatures, something profound emerges. You've become living proof that the human spirit can not only survive abandonment, but transform it into a source of unshakable inner authority. Your journey represents something larger than personal resilience. It connects you to an ancient lineage of women who also had to be strong alone, who also had to mother themselves, who also had to become their own ancestors. The integration of these 7 signatures creates a woman of extraordinary depth. Your sharpened intuition guides decisions that others might struggle with for months. Your quiet authority commands respect without demanding attention. Your comfort with solitude allows for connections that are chosen rather than desperate. Your boundaried love creates relationships built on mutual respect rather than codependency. Jung taught that healing happens when we integrate the rejected parts of ourselves, when we embrace the fragments we once tried to abandon. You've done this work not in comfortable therapy rooms, but in the raw laboratory of lived experience. You've become whole not through addition but through acceptance. Not through finding missing pieces, but through recognizing that you were never actually broken. Your strength now carries a different quality than when it first emerged from necessity. It's no longer desperate or grasping, no longer built on the foundation of what you lacked. It's become generative, creative, magnetic in its authenticity. You don't attract people who need you to be weak for them to feel strong. You attract those who can appreciate strength without needing to diminish it. The woman you've become serves as a bridge between the frightened girl you once were and the wise woman you're still becoming. You've learned to parent your own inner child with the tenderness you once craved from others. You've learned to provide for your own emotional needs with the consistency you once sought externally. You've learned to believe in your own worth with the conviction you once hoped others would show you. This transformation ripples outward in ways you might not recognize. Other women see your quiet strength and remember their own. Your presence gives permission for others to stop performing weakness, to stop apologizing for their competence, to stop diminishing themselves, to make others comfortable. You've become a living example that it's possible to emerge from abandonment, not bitter but better. Not broken, but beautifully integrated. The particular alchemy of your transformation lies in how you've learned to extract nourishment from experiences that could have poisoned you. Each disappointment became data about human nature rather than evidence of your unworthiness. Each betrayal taught you about discernment rather than cynicism. Each period of loneliness deepened your relationship with yourself rather than convincing you of your inadequacy. What distinguishes your journey from others who faced similar circumstances is your refusal to let bitterness calcify around your heart. You've maintained the delicate balance between wisdom and openness, between protection and connection, between strength and tenderness. This requires ongoing conscious choice, a daily recommitment to growth over grievance, expansion over contraction. Your story continues to unfold, not towards some distant destination where you'll finally be complete, but deeper into the recognition that you already are complete. The strength that saved you has become the strength that serves you. The independence that protected you has become the foundation from which you choose to connect with others. What emerges now isn't the need to be rescued, because you've discovered you were never the one drowning. You were always the one swimming, always the one navigating, always the one finding your way to shore. What emerges now is the desire to be truly seen, to be genuinely appreciated, to be honored for the remarkable journey you've taken and the extraordinary woman you've become. The invisible scars you carry tell a story worth telling. The silent victories you've achieved deserve recognition. The quiet strength you embody deserves reverence. You've earned the right to be witnessed not in your weakness, but in your power. Not in your need, but in your abundance. Not in your past wounds, but in your present wholeness. You represent something sacred in a world that often forgets the holy nature of a woman who has learned to stand in her own light. Your journey from abandonment to self-sovereignty isn't just personal transformation, it's spiritual evolution. You've alchemized suffering into wisdom, loneliness into solitude, desperation into determination. The signatures you carry aren't scars of damage, but emblems of resilience. They tell the story of a woman who refused to be diminished by circumstances beyond her control, who chose growth over bitterness, who selected strength over victimhood, who picked integration over fragmentation. These signatures make you recognizable to others who have walked similar paths, creating invisible bonds of understanding that transcend words. If this exploration touched something deep within you, if you recognized yourself in these 7 signatures, I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story matters, Your strength deserves acknowledgement. Your journey needs witnessing. Make sure to subscribe to Sacred Patterns to continue exploring the profound wisdom that emerges when we honor the fullness of our experience, both the shadows and the light, both the wounds and the healing that transforms them into sources of power. The conversation continues, and your voice is essential to it.